Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is kushalmehra. All right, so today we're going to talk about the beginning of Mark Carney's tour of India. If you don't know, and it's morning in Canada, Mark Carney has arrived in Mumbai. So he's on a 4-day visit to India. Today is 27th evening. Carney's plane landed around 3:30 p.m. afternoon time in Mumbai. They're placed in Colaba, a very iconic hotel in Mumbai. It's called the Taj. It's actually one of, or if not the best, I would say the most iconic restaurant hotels of Mumbai. It was at one point of time, I think it was attacked during the 26/11 attacks too. And from what I have understood, is Mark Carney has private meetings with business leaders in Mumbai because Mumbai is the financial capital of India. Tomorrow, I think they have a personal day trip planned for the Prime Minister and his wife, and they will be paying their tribute to the victims of the 26/11 attack too. And after that, the Prime Minister heads to Delhi, where he will be meeting the Prime Minister of India, and they will be holding a bunch of talks. I think I don't know exactly which premiers are in this contingent, but I know a lot of top Canadian company CEOs are there in the Prime Minister's contingent, along with a few premiers. I know Scott Moe is there. I know he's there for sure. I don't know if any other premier has joined him. I don't know if Doug Ford is there. But we'll talk about a lot of this. As always, I have Darshan Maharaja with me. Darshan bhai, namaste. How are you doing?
Namaste, fine sir. How are you?
Sir, the Prime Minister is here. Now, uh, we will talk about the discussion in Canada and we will take those issues one by one. But for you as a Canadian, what are your expectations from the Prime Minister of Canada from this leg? Because he's going to go to Japan and Australia too.
First off, I want him to seal the deal on the resources, oil and gas, uranium, and other resources. As to your question, I think Susan Holt, who is the Premier of New Brunswick, she is in this delegation. Now, I'm not sure what the angle is there, because I would have expected the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador to be there because they have offshore oil and gas deposits. And if that happens, then the whole pipeline issue gets bypassed because you don't need a pipeline. Neither British Columbia nor Quebec can play the role of the spoiler, which they rather enjoy doing, because this is right off the coast, and therefore it can be exported right away. But yeah, my primary expectations are economic, that we have to agree to sell our oil and gas, uranium, lentils, even agricultural produce, as Premier Moe is with Prime Minister Carney. So yeah, economic angle is what I'm looking at, and we have to realize, a lot of Canadians are not able to put this in the perspective. Primarily, I don't fault them. It's not been presented this way, but India's economy is twice as big as Canada's. So we can only gain by aligning with that, right? It's Canada is what, $2.3 trillion, and India is around $5 trillion. So it's twice the size of Canadian economy, and we can only gain by that. Unfortunately, under Prime Minister Trudeau's tenure, the whole relationship got hijacked, and at one point, there was hardly any contact, one might say, or communication between the two governments. So yeah, restoring that is a good thing.
So, just to give people perspective, I've shared this chart from the good folks at Info and Data. So, this is the economic partnership chart as such. Um, and this is the source is the Ministry of Commerce and Industry in India, by the way, for those who don't know. And these are the top 10 export commodities from India to Canada in 2025-26. This is all the figures are in US million USD. So this is what India exports to Canada, and this is what India imports from Canada. So as you can see, um, the major chunk that India tends to import from Canada is edible vegetables, roots and tubers, fertilizers, minerals, fuels, oils, related products, wood pulp and waste paper. Then we have aircraft and spacecraft. Then we have paper, paperboard, and paper articles, iron and steel, pearls, precious stones, and jewelry articles, nuclear reactors and mechanical machinery, ore, slag, and ash. These are the products, and different parts of Canada are involved in this. And as far as India is concerned, the biggest chunk that India sends to Canada is pharmaceutical products, followed by nuclear reactors and mechanical machinery, pearls, precious stones, and jewelry articles, articles of iron and steel, followed by organic chemicals. Then we have electrical machinery and equipment, plastic and its articles, fish and other related products, vehicles, excluding railway and parts, and made up textile articles. So this is one figure that uh, I wanted to share. And there's one more chart that I think we can look at. This is the trade story per se from 2014-15 to 2024-25. This includes India's imports from Canada and India's exports to Canada. And as you can see, there is from 23-24 to 24-25, you will see India's imports from Canada dropped. This is the space where Justin Trudeau threw a hissy fit. So the numbers don't lie. India's exports to Canada kept on increasing consistently. But yes, there are obviously the COVID period is an exception. This period was when COVID was at its peak. So all industrial activity was pretty much dead and buried. But this is again trade in USD billion. As of now, we stand at 8.67 billion. It was around 5.95 US billion in 2014-15. Honestly, if somebody was to ask me, this should be double at this rate right now. And the only reason these numbers have not increased significantly as far as India and Canada are concerned is because India and Canada don't trust each other as countries. That's my opinion.
True. True, and that trust, unfortunately, boiled down to personal equations, where if you take a lesson from the book and the movie Godfather, it is that when it's business, you don't bring personal matters in the picture. You can be liking a person very much, and still, if it doesn't make sense for your organization, whether it's a company or a country, if it doesn't make sense, then you don't make the deal, and vice versa. So unfortunately, it boiled down to personal level and personal element, and diaspora politics. So you can't have the entire economy or economic growth of the country be hijacked by a minuscule percentage of the population. But the problem is that in Canada this is quite normal. It's not unique to this particular dispute, but it's quite normal to give a bigger dimension to an issue by involving something like human rights or moral stance, things like that. So you cannot say that this affects a very small number of people, but it harms a much bigger number of people. Therefore, this is the way we should go. No, that option is closed off because it's turned into a moral issue. Just take the case of the fake asylum seekers. Every day you will see articles by prominent commentators and journalists in Canadian media presenting it as a moral issue, and they will conflate it with the genuine issues, like people who have genuinely fled war-torn countries like Ukraine or Gaza or wherever, and then but their number is much smaller in comparison to the total, but it will always be turned into a moral issue, and then if you say anything against it, then you are an evil person. That is how they shut you down, and that is exactly what had happened because it suited Prime Minister Trudeau. But now Prime Minister Carney has a different priority because he knows that he has a tough job on his hands. Because the economy is in the dumps, the future prospects are even more in the dumps. Talented people are not going to find it attractive to stick around in Canada, let alone come to Canada. So he needs to move fast on certain things in order to at least have a semblance of a chance of fixing things.
Yeah, you're right. The problem is that the Canadian discourse, as far as India is concerned, has been reduced to Punjab. So Canada and India are two countries. Canada and Punjab are not two countries dealing with each other. Now, if we look at, even for that matter, look at David Eby. He was here in India. Again, I don't know what the hell he was doing. The song and dance routine in Punjab, as always. Um, Before that, Justin Trudeau, the less we say, the better. I mean, that was embarrassing. To be very honest, everybody was embarrassed by that. Indians were like, what the hell is he doing? Canadians were like, what the hell is he doing? Everybody was like, what the hell is he doing? I think his own wife must be like, what the hell are you doing? And it was just embarrassing in general, as far as Justin Trudeau was concerned. But for long, a very small yet extremely disproportionately violent and influential community, AAKA, the Khalistanis, have had an influence. Yeah, the Khalistanis are a separate community, and we need to separate Khalistanis and Sikhs as a different community. The Canadian Sikh, the Canadian Hindu, the Canadian Muslim, the Canadian Christian, the Canadian atheist are different communities from the Canadian Khalistani. Khalistanis are a unique breed of individuals that have always had a disproportionate influence on all parties in Canada. These days, their influence is more on the Conservative Party of Canada. And why would I say that? Well, did you see where the Conservative MPs were just before Mark Carney's trip? And we will talk about all those things. We will talk about it one by one. And it has led to a very skewed perspective as far as Canada-India relations are concerned. The Canadians are all... let's use this as an example, all right? This is City News Vancouver. A Surrey Sikh activist speaking out ahead of Prime Minister Mark Carney's trip to India this month. You see a photo here. I mean, for the audio listeners, I'm sorry, I can't show you photos. But now let's find out who this gentleman is, who they call a Canadian Sikh activist. Now I'm going to play a video, all right? This gentleman whose photo you saw is Maninder Singh Bual. Now let's play a video of Maninder Singh Bual and what he's saying. And by the way, it's going to be in Punjabi, but you will read the subtitles of the video. So it's not a problem for those who can read. So let's play what the Sikh activist, as per the City News Vancouver, and his thoughts. All right.
ਧਰਮ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ, ਇਹ ਧਰਮ ਯੁੱਧ ਆ। ਕੋਈ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਲੜਾਈ, ਫਲਾਨੀ ਲੜਾਈ, ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਵਰ ਵਾਸਨਾ ਨਹਿ ਪ੍ਰਭ ਧਰਮ ਯੁੱਧ ਕਾ ਚਾਹੇ। ਇਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਧਰਮ ਯੁੱਧ ਦਾ ਚਾਅ ਆ। ਇਸ ਧਰਮ ਯੁੱਧ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਆ ਲੜਨ ਲਈ। ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਕਵੇ ਕਿ ਸਿਰਫ ਆਹ ਆਇਆ ਜਾਂ ਔਰ ਆਇਆ। ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਹੀ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਆ ਆ, ਕਲਮ ਵੀ ਬਖਸ਼ੀ ਆ, ਸ਼ਸਤਰ ਵੀ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਆ ਆ। ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਸ਼ਸਤਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਏ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੇ ਮੋਹਰੇ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅੱਜ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਹਥਿਆਰਬੰਦ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ। ਹਥਿਆਰਬੰਦ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਨਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਨਾ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛ ਕੇ ਅਗਲਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਲੜਨਾ। ਉਹ ਸੁੱਖੇ ਜਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਬੱਗੇ ਸ਼ੇਰੇ ਆਪੇ ਆਈ ਜਾਣੇ ਆ। ਪਰ ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਂ ਆਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਆ, ਫਲਾਨਾ ਸਮਾਂ ਆਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਆ। ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਮਾਂ ਤੈਅ ਕੀਤਾ ਆ ਹਰੇਕ ਮੋੜ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ। ਸਮੇਂ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਉਡੀਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ। ਸੁੱਖਾ ਸਿੰਘ ਮਤਾਬ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਮਸੇ ਰੰਗੜ ਦਾ ਸਿਰ ਵੱਢਿਆ, ਉਹਦਾ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਬੈਕਲੈਸ਼ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ। ਭਾਵੇਂ ਇੰਦਰਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਵੈਦਿਆ ਹੋਵੇ, ਬਿਆੰਤਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਮਾਂ ਤੈਅ ਕੀਤਾ। ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਨੌਜਵਾਨੀ ਆ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਆਰਗੈਨਿਕਲੀ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ, ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਛੱਡਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਕਮਜ਼ੋਰੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਪੰਥ ਦੀਆਂ ਕਮਜ਼ੋਰੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ। ਜੋ ਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ, ਜੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਹੀਲੇ ਵਸੀਲੇ ਦਿੱਤੇ, ਉਹੀ ਚੱਲੂਗਾ। ਜਿਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੂਜੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਆ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣਾ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਮੁਬਾਰਕ ਆ। ਉਹ ਪੰਥ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਆ, ਗੁਰੂ ਪੰਥ ਦਾ, ਉਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਕਾਲ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੀਲੇ ਵਸੀਲੇ ਮਿਲੇ ਆ, ਉਹਦੇ ਆਧਾਰ ਤੇ ਹੀ ਚੱਲਣਾ ਆ। ਇਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਭਾਈ ਹਰਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ। ਜਿੰਨੀਆਂ ਮਰਜ਼ੀਆਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਪੀਚਾਂ ਕਰ ਲਓ, ਕਦੀ ਵੀ ਹਥਿਆਰਬੰਦ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਦੇ, ਕਦੀ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਸਿੰਘਾਂ ਦੇ ਖਿਲਾਫ, ਕਦੀ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ। ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੁਝਾਰੂ ਜਥੇਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਐਕਟਿਵ ਨੇ। ਐਕਟੀਵਿਟੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਥੋੜੀ ਹੋਵੇ, ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਹੁੰਦੀ, ਐਕਟਿਵ ਨੇ। ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜੁਝਾਰੂਪਣੇ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੈਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਾ ਸਕਦੇ, ਸਾਡਾ ਕੋਈ ਹੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਦਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਨਖੇਦੀਏ। ਸਾਡਾ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੀ ਕੰਮ ਫੇ ਬਣਦਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸਾਂਭਣ ਜੋਗੇ ਹੋਈਏ। ਕੋਈ ਅੱਜ ਬੰਦਾ ਉੱਠ ਕੇ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਕਾਰਨਾਮਾ ਪੰਥ ਲਈ ਕਰਦਾ ਆ, ਸਵਾਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਸਿਰਾਂ ਤੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸਾਂਭ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਜਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਲੱਗਣਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸ਼ਾਂਤਮਈ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਆ ਇਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਆਣ ਕੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਖਰਾਬ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਇਹ ਤੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੱਡੀ ਬਦਕਿਸਮਤੀ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਊਗੀ ਇਸ ਸੰਘਰਸ਼ ਦੇ ਲਈ, ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਪਏ ਤੇ ਸੁਣੀਆਂ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਣ ਕੇ ਦੁਹਰਾ ਰਹੇ।
Now imagine this gentleman who is called a Sikh activist, interviewed regularly on Canadian media. Every media house goes to this gentleman all the time, right? And they keep on showing him. This man is openly talking about violence. Openly. He feels no qualms, right? So let us share more information, right? This gentleman, basically Maninder Singh Bull, he's a spokesperson for the BC Gurdwara Council. He is known as a Sikh activist, right? Now he has been warned for threats to his life, allegedly. Now Bull and Pavkar Dulai, who remains on a no-fly list of Canada, co-founded the Canadian Sikh Coalition. Dulai has been linked in reporting to the banned International Sikh Youth Federation, a designated terrorist group in Canada, and Bull testified at the Hogue interference inquiry. You can see all the information is there in these screenshots. Look, somewhere down the line, look at the insignia, Babar Khalsa.
Yeah.
It's insane. So, somewhere down the line, we need to talk about these things. We need to ask these questions. I don't know if people remember. Aapko yaad hai ye kaun tha wo? This is the guy who lost the case, then he won the case. This is that lawyer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this is that gentleman. And these people, look, they are all here. This is Bull with Hardeep Singh Nijjar. All the photos are here. And all I'm trying to say is that this gentleman that the Canadian media so innocently, tries to show as an activist, like his brother-in-law, Jathinder Singh Narwal, he's also called Roman, was sentenced in 2005 to 17 years for a drug-related abduction and murder. His father-in-law, Avtar Singh Narwal, was investigated in connection with the 1985 Air India flight bombing linked to Badwar Khalsa. Again, I'm not making this up. I'll reshare these images. Everything is on record. Everything is on record. And the Canadian media, through its willful blindness, tries to show that nothing. He's just an activist. He heads the Sikh Federation Canada. They are linked with the UK-based Sikh Federation UK. SFUK emerged after ISYF was designated a terrorist organization.
Right.
And somewhere down the line, like what, my brain says, how incompetent can Canadian media be? How? There has to be a limit to their incompetence, right?
Yeah, you see, there are several points of weakness in Canadian media. The first is, as we have said repeatedly on your show, they have not updated their software from the 1960s. So they are still living in a world that no longer exists, where other powerful countries have emerged like China and India. They are growing in their economic strength, their military strength, their geopolitical strength. They have not updated that. That is one reason. Second is that they are heavily dependent on the government for their existence financially. It used to be true only for CBC, but now it applies to pretty much all mainstream media. And whoever pays the piper calls the tune. So they are used to singing that tune. Thirdly, they consider themselves to be a kind of supervisory role over everybody else. So, for example, there was this interview with the Premier of Manitoba. He was giving a press conference and about the gun confiscation issue, where he said that, we will not be participating in that because it's a federal plan and provinces have to agree and the individual police services have to agree. And he said that we will not be participating. And the way the journalist kept asking him was, this is how they start. Don't you think that your stance is wrong? That will be the first follow-up question. Second follow-up question will be that if you don't change your stance to what I am saying, then you are an evil person. This applies across a wide range of issues. So here, especially because Prime Minister Trudeau made the blunder, I call it a political blunder, of making a categorical statement himself. See, you have a similar case in the US, but even President Biden did not get into it. He did not, he was like miles away from that. Like it's a separate law and order issue where the head of government doesn't need to, touch that from any distance. So Prime Minister Trudeau made it a kind of issue. Even yesterday, I saw there are respectable people, otherwise respectable people, who are contending that the RCMP or the law enforcement have made a statement like, do you guys believe in due process or not? If a court verdict comes which says that the Indian government was complicit in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, then I will accept it. But until that point, you cannot make a statement as if it is a fait accompli. But that is the level of discourse in Canada. Unfortunately, media, which is supposed to be the more erudite, the more sophisticated participant in these debates, and guide people in the direction of truth, does the opposite. Because they have already taken a stance before the discussion even begins, and then their objective or their mission is to corral people into that point of view, which people are, a lot of people are not going to do. Then you get this kind of a conflict. But that's where, unfortunately, the Canada-India relationship had been brought to. And I'm happy that Prime Minister Carney is trying to fix it, because ultimately you have to look after the economy of the country.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine like Sukh Dhaliwal, all right, a liberal MP.
Yeah.
He talks about it. Now, this is Sukh Dhaliwal, all right? This is Sukh Dhaliwal with the same man, Bual, who's sitting here. And by the way, Tim Uppal is there, Jasraj is there. Bunch of conservative MPs are there too, which is, we have often said that it's a uniparty in Canada as far as this mess is concerned. And I don't know why people find it offensive. Like, what? Imagine if you are going on a tour, right? You're going on a tour to an economy that is double your size. You're going on a tour that has, that has a certain number that if you get that you want to be part of, and all your, like, Tim Uppal is your deputy leader of opposition, right? He's not a small person. Like, Tim Uppal is a deputy leader of the opposition. He's a respected person. And this is what Tim Uppal does. This is Pargat Singh. Pargat Singh is basically a former captain. He's an MLA from Jalandhar cantonment and a former education and sports minister in Punjab. So this is what Pargat Singh says. Warmly welcomed the Canadian MP's delegation during their Punjab visit. The visiting dignitaries included Jasraj Singh Hallan, Conservative MP Calgary East and Shadow Minister of Finance, Amanpreet Singh Gill, MP Calgary Skyview, and Dalwinder Singh Gill, MP Calgary McKnight. We had meaningful discussions on Punjab-Canada relations, global issues, and the challenges faced by Punjabi students and workers in Canada due to stricter immigration policies. Strengthening dialogue and cooperation remains essential. यार मतलब ये क्या कर रहे हैं ये लोग? What are these idiots doing? These are conservative MPs. Now imagine what a Conservative Party of Canada should have been doing was, before Carney's trip, they should have been asking Mark Carney, why are you not signing a trade deal with India? Shouldn't that have been a main question? But na ji na.
You know the history on this, right? I had asked Pierre Poilievre and he sidestepped the question. They are not interested in trade with India. Unfortunately, a conservative party, which is supposed to be very strong on everything relating to economics, is not interested in more trade with the fastest growing economy on the planet. At a time when our economy is in the dumps and could do with some injection of life into it. They are not interested because, see, the party has been hijacked. The way previously it was Trudeau whose agenda had been hijacked. Now it is the Conservative Party. And, it boggles the mind that they have seen how damaging this can be. Because, in politics, it's an art of balancing priorities and competing interests and even opposing interests. And you have to do a balancing act, and being this lopsided has resulted in actual damage. Because consider in the last 3-4 years what kind of, as you said, the trade between India and Canada should be double by now of what it is. And that was a lost opportunity. And the Conservative Party not being able to see that beats me. Like, are these guys really having any foundational ideas or not?
They don't, and I'm going to show a lot of things. As someone who actually leans conservative, I find them appalling. I can't believe I used to support them at one point of time. Like, who are these people? Like, ye kaun hai ye log? Look at this, Tim Uppal. He's meeting Bikram Singh Majithia, him and his wife. Bhai, what? Who are these people? Like, what is Tim Uppal doing? And like, is Pierre Poilievre's only thing in his life? यार अभी बोलने को भी गुस्सा आता है, मगर ठीक है, अभी क्या बोले यार, मतलब it's disappointing that Pierre Poilievre is the guy who doesn't even understand the importance of some of these things. This is Pierre Poilievre. Okay, this is what he has reduced the Conservative Party to. Like, what is he doing?
Direct flight to Amritsar now, so that we can fly and go see the Golden Temple.
Why?
See, we have the biggest.
Imagine he has time to answer and repeat these inanities, but he never answered your question that matters the most, that creates more jobs for Canadians.
Exactly.
This is how pathetic he is.
Exactly. I was at one of his press conferences when he started saying this, from that period, and there were actually banners, the stand-up banners and the horizontal banners, direct flight to Amritsar. This press, it was kind of a public meet, and it was in Brampton East. So that is where this was going to resonate the most. And I was wondering, like, why is by that time he was saying that he was running to be the Prime Minister of Canada. And if he is running to be the Prime Minister of Canada, this is too small a thing for him to directly dabble into. Like, that was my, I didn't get a chance to ask, but that was the question in my mind. You have to look at, as Prime Minister or as federal government, what do you look for? You look for increasing the economy, increasing the tie-ups, the kind of system tie-ups with other like-minded countries on things like defense, on intelligence sharing. You seek to boost your military strength. These are the things that you broadly look for, right? Everything else is just chump change for someone in that position of prime minister or president of a country. And this kind of pandering, it should have been, I mean, in hindsight, it should have been clear that this was going off on a completely wrong track.
You know what the irony of it all is? My ethnicity is from Amritsar. And I don't understand what the mess is all about. Like, why is he talking about it? I don't care.
Yeah.
I have immediate family even as of now, this very moment in Amritsar, in the heart of Amritsar, in the proper city. I don't know what this guy is on about. Like, it's so frustrating. It's like, talk about economics, like Sanjay here, right? Lazar. So these are India's needs. Show me once where Pierre Poilievre talks about this. 600 to 700 tons of uranium per annum, which is going to rise to 1,500 tons. Nuclear, 50 plus gigawatt long-term needs. Lithium, 3,000 to 4,000 tons LCE per annum. Crude oil, 1.9 to 2 billion barrels per year. LPG, 29 to 30 million tons per year. Natural gas, 65 to 70 billion cubic meters annually. CNG, 9 to 10 million tons equivalent per year. Can Canada talk about this? Can Pierre Poilievre talk about this?
Imagine getting just half of that business. What kind of a boost it would be to Canadian economy? Just half of this business.
Thousands of jobs in Canada alone.
Absolutely. And then the spillover effect, those people would be earning, therefore they would be spending. And then that would create the second order effect and then the third order effect. That is where the focus should be always. Prime Minister Trudeau lost it, unfortunately. That is to the detriment of all Canadians. And unfortunately, when that didn't work out, the group that caused this slippage migrated to the other party. And the other party allowed it to happen. Like, are there any strategies in that party or not?
No. And let me back you up with evidence, because they will accuse you of being a liberal hack or something. These are his speeches from 21 to 23, and then I'll show a recent one too, from 24, 25, somewhere at that time. I don't know. So let's listen to this man. They're always behind the curve. I'm just backing you up with evidence.
When immigration was down and GDP.
Immigration came to a halt, reducing the number of, and that when you shut off immigration altogether, thereby, and immigration was next to zero.
Rather, because there was no immigration, so fewer consumers.
There was almost no immigration.
In prices, and it made sense. No immigration.
Immigration and GDP are all down. GDP and immigration down, and with all of the number of immigrants are also down.
He dropped, and immigration dropped. All things that you would expect. Immigration was down. So all of the things that
there are still people who want to come here, and we hope they do. But 2.6
positions, then we need to accelerate immigration so that they can bring in those workers. But
the immigration.
Wait, I'm not done yet. There's another one. I'm not done yet. See, this is what bothers me, that we've played this video in the past too on this podcast.
Yeah.
And this was,
they come along and say that that the Trudeau government is going to kick the students out of Canada. The solution is obvious.
Look at Jasraj Hallan.
End the deportations. Allow everyone who applied honestly but who was defrauded to continue to keep their work or study permit, and allow them to apply just like everyone else to become permanent residents. That's what I'm calling for. Stop the deportations. Listen, we have a worker shortage in Canada. We have a demographic problem. Our population is too old. We need 700 young people. We need 700 young people to work in our factories, in our hospitals, in our shopping centers, driving truck, being accountants, lawyers, doctors. We need these workers in our country. It makes no sense for Canada to send them back when they could stay here and earn powerful paychecks and raise their families in peace. So shame on Justin Trudeau for trying to deport these wonderful students. Stop the deportations. Keep the students here. Allow them to apply just like everyone else for permanent residency. The Conservatives will continue to fight for the students. The letter.
No, you know what the funniest bit in all of this is? I mean, when I heard this, you sent it to me too. Before that, I had watched it in the morning. I mean, seriously, it clearly, this was never on anyone's bingo card. This.
Yeah. See,
This was
what happened was he had absolutely no idea of the mess that this particular issue was. Right? Somebody told him that these poor kids are being deported because they were defrauded, they were given fake admission letters, and you can gain a lot of support in the Sikh community by supporting them openly. So he said everything that one says when one doesn't know the ground reality. And, throwing Justin Trudeau government is deporting you and therefore they are being heartless. That was the implied meaning. And that I have a big heart and I will support you and I'll stop your deportation. He had absolutely no idea of the kind of corrupt mess of the student policy and international student policy and the temporary foreign worker program and all that came out later. He had no idea. But even after it was publicly known, until the election, he did not come out swinging against it. After the election, they have kind of taken up the file, but I still see that their approach is missing the mark. But you said that a lot of people will call me a liberal hack or whatever. Well, I've been called a conservative hack when I was criticizing Prime Minister Trudeau. Now, Prime Minister Carney is doing things that, according to me, are the right things to do. Where there is something to criticize, I'll criticize. But I won't be a critic of Prime Minister Carney just because he happens to be a liberal Prime Minister. No, I look at policy. And here, on this whole immigration file, which is kind of linked with the India file, conservatives have still not understood what the reality is.
And the irony is, Mark Miller of all the people. I just laughed. Look, I was like, what is happening? Just listen to this. Mark Miller of all the people is taunting the Conservatives. I just had a hearty laugh. I was like, what is happening? What is happening?
Mr. Speaker, let's assume for a second that the Conservatives actually want to help the situation. Perhaps the member opposite can turn to her right, talk to the leader of the opposition who's changed so many ridings, he's Parliament's own temporary foreign worker, and ask him to stop going around the country pandering to communities, promising them not to be deported, and promising visas for everyone. That might help, Mr. Speaker.
This is insane. How can Mark Miller talk about it? Nothing makes sense anymore. Everything is a mess. Everything is a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, when the guys who were pandering for votes by offering visas are now saying that the other guy wants to do it.
And you know what the irony is? The other guy is.
Yeah.
What is happening? What is this a country? How can you take it seriously? Like the Khalistanis were all in the Liberals when Trudeau was there. Then
Right.
Carney comes. Carney says, "I don't want to do anything with you guys." They all go to the Conservative Party, and the Conservative Party is like, "Welcome, Ajo ji."
No, I think the switch happened a little earlier than that. In June of 2024, there was this by-election in riding called Toronto St. Paul, which is a liberal fortress, but the Conservatives managed to win it by 500 votes. But still, it was a by-election. Voting percentage was low, and that seat going to any other party is an earthquake. So that is when a few things happened. This is my theory. The Conservatives started believing that they had the general election in the bag already. It was just a matter of going through the motions of holding an election, and that they were going to win with a super majority. The same conclusion was reached by the Khalistanis and decided that Liberal Party does not offer any future path for their activism to continue. And that if they wanted to be closer to the nucleus of political power, then they needed to be strong in the Conservative Party. So they decided to migrate. And because Conservative Party, if you can call it a brain trust, they failed to see what was happening. So they allowed the takeover to happen. This is what happened. It was much before Mark Carney even became a candidate for the party's leadership, 6 months before that. So basically lack of strategic sense in Conservative Party.
No, but lack of strategic sense, but you would expect your media to be sensible, right? At least I expect Vashi to be sensible and ask the right questions of the finance minister, right? I don't know if you saw this clip of Vashi. Did you see this one-on-one with the finance minister?
No, not this one.
Oh, please. Hey, this is 4 minutes of pure cinema. Imagine your prime minister is going to India. He's not going to Punjab because he doesn't want to, bring in those issues. And what does the Canadian media do? It does the job of the Khalistanis. Listen, this is what Vashi is doing.
I think the reason that some Canadians might have questions more specifically about Canada's level of engagement and whether or not, as you pointed out, it equates or not to endorsement is because of what we heard from the Prime Minister you previously served under, from the RCMP, and then strangely, later in the week, this week, from an unnamed government official, that there's no longer concern about transnational repression from India. Is that true? Is that an official statement from your government?
As you would appreciate, I've been very busy with passing the budget, which is going to pass today. I've not seen or heard about some references to comments made, but public safety is always top of mind. Obviously, that's the first duty of the government. And I know the Minister of Public Safety is engaged, Minister of Foreign Affairs is engaged. But what I say, you have to put that also in a broader context of strategic engagement, because yes, we're going in India, we're going to go in Australia, Prime Ministers in Japan. And I think it's a reflection also of what you've seen. You may have seen the numbers now. We have attracted more foreign direct investment in Canada now than in, it's a record of the last 18 years. So us engaging with nations who want to do trade with Canada, I think is to the benefit of our workers, our industry. And like I said, Canada is no different than our G7 partner. You need to engage with the world if you want to diversify, be more resilient. And the world is changing rapidly. And I think Canadians, that's why you've seen like 2/3 of Canadians understand the economic vision we put forward with the Prime Minister, which is strong at home, strategic abroad. And the reflection also, I would just say to you, Vashi, that you have heads of states, head of government from fast-growing economies, like India, for example, that want to receive the Prime Minister in Canada, because we're going there with a business delegation. Some premiers, I understand, will be there. What we talk, the Maple 8, some of our biggest pension funds. So the interest is there. The engagement is going to be there. I'm going to meet my counterpart, the Minister of Finance, which I've known for many, many years. And I think fundamentally, in a world which is fast changing, you want to be building the strategic relationship with the appropriate guardrails and everything else that you need. But I think it's what I would call strategic engagement.
It is, though, the Prime Minister himself who said we will calibrate that engagement accordingly with our values. When you point out, for example, and full credit to the additional inflow, right, for highest since 2007 of foreign direct investment, more than half of that comes from the United States, though. It isn't the result of diversification efforts. And I would ask again where India is concerned, because it isn't the same as every other country. Canada and India's engagement isn't the same. Canadians, and in particular Sikh Canadians, this week, for example, there have been extortion attempts with shootings that the Bishnoi gang took responsibility for. A Sikh leader was visited by the police a few days ago in Vancouver and told he and his children are once again targets and that they should be fearing for their life, right? I don't understand exactly how your government intends to reconcile those things. The Prime Minister has largely avoided answering questions.
Well, I would say we're taking that very seriously. You may have seen that I launched our strategy and measures, which we call follow the money strategy, which, if you talk to law enforcement officers, our G7 partners, at one of the G7 meeting we had representative of the FBI, Treasury Department, and like you said, some of that is related to domestic crime and gangs. Some of it is also transnational. And
but just I know you were busy passing the budget, but your government told reporters last night that's not happening anymore.
Well,
and it's very
say,
hard to understand how.
I would say, just going back on extortion, I'll be meeting also with counterparts who are engaged in that, because we understand it's a transnational issue. It's not, there's part of it which is transnational. We're building our own financial crime agency, and part of the announcement you saw last week, which communities that you mentioned were very, I think people welcome that, because in my view, at least, and talking to law enforcement, the follow the money strategy is the right one, because that's where you want to be able to catch the criminals. And I said, we're going to make their life miserable, and we're going to monitor that. Those are additional measures. First time we put boots on the ground of what we call Interac, which is the agency which is able to detect these illicit payment, and working also with our international partners. I put that on the G7 agenda. So when it comes to extortion, to public safety, being tough on crime, certainly we've been there with measures that do that. That being said,
I wanted to play the whole segment. Foreign interference. When Canadian Khalistanis interfere in Indian sovereignty, that's not foreign interference for Vashi.
No.
Or for any Canadian. When Canadians don't even give any actual evidence, but they just keep coming up with repetitive lines and sound like condescending morons. I'm sorry I'm saying this. This is condescending.
Yeah.
They think they're supposed to. Look, somebody has to say it, because I speak with sources inside the government of India. I'm telling you, the government categorically told them, you want to trade with us? Get rid of this Khalistan bullshit. Otherwise, we're not interested. We'll go somewhere else. This is literally the answer from the government of India. Now the Canadians have to choose. They either choose the Khalistanis or they choose trade with India. They can pick one.
Right. No, you see, the way, first of all, the mainstream media in Canada continuing to push this is part of politics, because once you have nurtured and cultivated a constituency, you don't abandon them just like that. So while Prime Minister Carney is taking the pragmatic track, it is imperative in politics to make sure that the Khalistani constituency does not feel abandoned. So they will continue to find their proponents in the media, like Vashi or David Cochran or Rosie Barton or whoever, you name the person.
Or my favorite, Stuart Bell.
Stuart Bell, right? So, they will continue to find that support in the mainstream media, because then they will not come to a conclusion that they have been abandoned, that there is still hope for them to make it to the good graces of the Prime Minister's office. That is one part. Secondly, if the RCMP have warned someone that there is a threat against their life in Canada and their family, how does it prove that there is a foreign entity involved? See,
because they said so.
No, this is the semantic trick that our media performs. So you need to cultivate a habit of looking for the spaces in between the words. That the RCMP have told Darshan Maharaja that there is a threat against his life, which may be factual. But where that threat originates from is not specified. So am I right in saying that it is Khalistanis who want to kill Darshan Maharaja? No, I cannot. But that is how they always switch from one level to another without the careful, unless you are a careful listener, you will not notice. If there is a threat against that person's life and his family's life, then what is the evidence saying that the threat is originating from outside Canada? Because there are enough drug trafficking gangs here. Maybe there is an inter-gang rivalry. And all these extortion calls, within that, there is at least a subset of extortion calls where the person being targeted had defrauded someone through the bogus sale of LMIA, charged $50,000, did not give LMIA. This person says, give me my money back. That guy says, take a hike. So the desperate guy who has lost $50,000 for nothing gets in contact with some criminal element saying, hey, can you help me get my money back? And that guy says, yeah, that's what I do for a living. So within that criminality, where is the evidence of any foreign involvement? I'm not even saying necessarily India. I'm saying any foreign government involvement. Where is the evidence? You have to produce at least some prima facie evidence. Then, of course, it is up to litigation and for the court to adjudicate. But there is absolutely no evidence other than that the Prime Minister made a statement. Yeah, we know that Prime Minister used to say a lot of things like budgets can balance themselves, you know. So, I mean, a politician say, I would say this regarding any politician. A politician making a statement is not evidence of anything. It is only evidence of one thing, that it suits them at the moment to say so. So that is where our media is, and they are just, keeping the Khalistani element in good humor, that, hey, you have not been abandoned. That is what this whole interview told me.
That's all there is. And the reality is unfortunate, but it's brutal, that this entire 3-4 year LMIA, human trafficking, sex trafficking, immigration scam, basically, like every Ponzi scheme, the end of the Ponzi scheme, the ones who suffer, they go and ask for money. I'm not going to take names, but all major Canadian MPs who are Khalistani adjacent are involved in this.
Yeah.
Now go figure out. All of them are, not one. All of them in all parties are. All right. I know the running rate for getting an MP. So you know how they would scam these innocent Punjabis, right? They would say initially the charge is 20 to 25 lakh Indian rupees. For Canadians, for reference, it's around 40,000 Canadian dollars, give or take. Like the exchange, I'm assuming the exchange rate is around 60 to 62. It keeps changing. All right. Now, I think now it's like 66, 67. So it's going to be in that. Then what happens is the work doesn't happen. Then they're like, if we get a letter from a Canadian member of parliament, then they use the word, your paper will become pakka. Right? But you have to pay 20 lakh Indian rupees more. So shell out another 20 to 25,000 Canadian dollars. And this was a grand scam that was happening all this time. Now, a lot of these people, innocent people, desperate people in Punjab, because the Punjab economy is not doing that well in India, they ended up giving money to all these people. Now they reach there. Now suddenly the government changes its immigration policy. All these people have to go back. Now what are they going to do? They sold their ancestral land. They have nothing to fall back to now. And if they come back, there is shame involved. And you know how culture is back home. They will mock you. So then these people go to these gangsters. They say, Arey Baba, this guy has scammed me. Do something. Then they call them. They're like, pay him. And they have a cut. The gangster says, I will recover your money. I will keep 20% of it. The person was not getting anything. At least I'm getting 80%. This is the reality that is happening. And some of us knew it for the longest time. And we have been saying this. Imagine the Canadian media. All right. Forget me. I am Indian agent. Okay. As per them. I am Indian agent. I don't hold a Canadian passport. I'm just a landed immigrant. There are enough Canadian passport holders that the Canadian media could have gone and asked. They only find that Muninder Bual. They don't find anyone else to go and ask questions.
Yeah.
They don't find anyone else to ask counter questions.
Yeah.
They only find that one person every time. He is the representative of the entire Sikh community of the world. They don't go to Balraj Deol. They don't go to Ujjal Dosanjh. No, they will never go to those people.
Yeah.
How many people? No counter questioning. And listen, I tried to reach out to each and every one of these journalists. I can tell you, in Scarborough, as of now, near some Gurdwara, 3 houses exist where
Yes.
$300 rent are given by girls to owners, and they are being sexually exploited for cheaper rent. How many Canadian journalists I reached out to and I told them, please help these girls, please help these girls. Not one did it. Black, white, brown, all of them. Not one.
Yeah.
And Darshan Bhai knows because I told him when I was in Canada.
Yeah.
So, what are these people talking about? They care for our community. Very few people care for our community. Very few people. This is
part of this problem is that local media has died. Right? So what happened was there used to be local media at one point in time. Then they were taken over by the larger groups, with the flagship publications like Toronto Star or National Post or Toronto Sun, right? Then they decided that this is not really economically viable. So they shut down the local media. Social media has filled that void, but it is unfiltered. And it has its pluses, it has its minuses, but the main thing that it does not have is political pull. So no matter how serious the issue is, which someone reports on social media and then it goes viral and a lot of people become aware of it, rarely do you find that it ends up changing anything other than people's awareness of the issue. The immigration issue is kind of a rare exception in that, because the problems had become so severe that social media reporting on that ended up changing policies. But other than that, I mean, if there was a thriving social media in Scarborough, then you would have some kind of a investigative journalism, and then it growing into a controversy, and then someone being forced to do something to correct that situation. But that doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
And let me tell you, who eventually, so the background is, I kept on hammering on this issue. Then finally, I did one vlog with a great gentleman from Amritsar, Ravinder Robin. He's a fantastic journalist. I went on his portal and we talked about this issue in detail. It finally got very viral on Indian media.
Yes.
When people found out that, I helped like 10 to 13 girls to escape this kind of a situation in Canada and go back to Punjab. Then the Canadians did not act even then. You know who acted? Finally, the Indian consulate, Toronto General, they acted. And now we have a one-stop center for women.
Yeah.
This is dated December 26, 2025.
Right.
And the credit goes to Ravinder Robin for this, not me.
Yes.
This is a 24/7 helpline. So all you girls who are there in Canada, don't rely on the Canadian authorities. They will not do anything. They don't care for you. You need help, you call this. You call this. And these people will give us lessons on transnational repression and foreign interference. Where their MPs, you know what their MPs, I'm not going to take the name of the MP here, but you ask people, you know what they talk to lower level or higher level officers in our consulates. These MPs will go, listen, you give my people visa. Otherwise, I'll start talking about Khalistan. This is how they talk. Then they will go and tell the Indian counterparts, when I go to Pakistan, they treat me so nicely. Ye hai log. These are your public representatives in Canada. What standards are they talking about?
No, but that is the inevitable result of diaspora politics, right? Because people get elected based on things that have nothing to do with the local society. That is in a nutshell diaspora politics. where there was this councillor elected in Brampton. Based on his main promise was that he would make sure that there was a memorial for Komagata Maru. What does that have to do with the city's administration? Something that had happened 100 years ago. By that time, it was like 104 years ago, right? In Vancouver, on a different issue. Acha, a lot of people don't know one thing, how these things continue. During the height of the Khalistan militancy in Punjab, there was a militant group called the Komagata Maru Brigade. So something that had happened in Canada was used as a rallying cry for militants in Punjab 70, 80 years later. And then what happened in Punjab is being used as a rallying cry in Canada back again 30, 40 years later. This is an unending chain because this is why you have to stop diaspora politics.
Exactly.
That you are going to talk about the local economy, the local crime, the prospects for young Canadians over the next 30, 40, 50 years when they are going to have their working careers. You have to think about that.
And you know what bothers me the most is that imagine this is the leader of opposition that he tweets this. He just tweeted this 39 minutes ago.
Okay.
This is Pierre Poilievre. He didn't need to fly to India to learn they want to buy our energy. India had been saying that for years. The Liberal government is blocking our industry from producing and piping that energy to the Pacific. Get out of our way by pre-approving a pipeline, repealing C69 and the industrial carbon tax to let the industry produce more now. No more photo ops results, please. Although I agree with his critique, but why didn't he say this when you asked him the question before the election?
Yeah. See, there is this Sanskrit expression, Paropadesha Pandityam. When it comes to preaching to others, I am the expert. But when it comes to practicing the same thing myself, I don't match up to that advice that I dispense to others. Right? He was asked very categorically, how are you going to sell oil and gas to India? He chose not to answer it. And now that somebody is there trying to do that, he said, yeah, that demand has existed always. We could have done it earlier. Okay, fine.
Look, all I can say before wrapping up today's discussion is, as someone who cares for both India and Canada, I sincerely hope Mark Carney's trip to India is very successful. People don't realize how complementary these two economies are. And I mean this with all seriousness. I think people genuinely don't realize how complementary, like Canada literally has everything India needs. LNG, crude, uranium, pulses, lithium, gold, all in giant quantities. India needs them. India has engineering exports, textile exports, so many other things that Canada needs. Also, Canada still needs high-skilled Indian labor. Like it or not, they do need it. Like it or not, they do need it. Not the lot that went in the last 3 years, but they still need it. This is the most complementary relationship. And it is being held hostage by a bunch of muppets in Canadian media to appease some weird lot that are arguably the most violent people you will ever come across in your life. If you have not, go read up on Khalistani violence. Ask the people of Punjab, all our families who suffered. All our families. So, I mean, but I'll give you the last word. Obviously, we'll do an assessment of what happened in the 4 days also. But this is so last word to you before we wrap up.
I'm actually happy with this trip, and I'm hoping that a lot of trade comes out of this, because ultimately you can't eat your principles, you can't eat your lofty standards, and those principles are also kind of just for the show in Canada. When it comes to, we have said this openly, that the mass immigration influx was the modern example of large-scale human trafficking, which was enabled by the government. When it was happening, everybody knew what was happening, and they turned a blind eye to it. So on principles also, like, we don't have much ground to stand on. You have to look after the economy, you have to look after the welfare of your people in all age groups. Seniors deserve their own care. Young people deserve to have a bright future in this country. We are blessed with pretty much every resource that you can think of on this planet Earth. There is no reason why our economy should be in the doldrums like it is now. So I'm hoping that much mileage will be covered by Prime Minister Carney. Hoping for all the best.
Yep, I could not have put it in better way. I sincerely hope Mark Carney the best. May not agree with his economic policies 100%. I think he's too left leaning for me. I'm more conservative leaning, but I care for both India and Canada, and I want these countries to succeed. I think Canada is an amazing country. Canadians are amazing people, and I think they deserve better than what is being offered to them. Here's wishing Mark Carney a wonderful trip. Carney bada naseeb wala yaar. He lands and Mumbai AQI is like 2030 in South Bombay. I don't know. The weather changed. Mark Carney got good AQI also for us. So, I have not seen such a blue sky in Mumbai for years. I mean, it is one of the most beautiful sights. Every Mumbaiker is just taking drives around the sea and just making videos. It's like, "Arey bhai, pata nahi kab hoga," kind of a thing. Otherwise, we only see those scenes in the rainy season in Mumbai for 5 months.
Right.
But Carney has gotten good weather also for us and good, good air quality. So here's wishing them the best. And if you have not followed Darshan Maharaja on X, his X handle is there in the description of the podcast. Go follow him. He also has his own website. Go read him. And you guys know the drill. The Cārvāka podcast runs only on your monthly donations or one-time donations. If you're in Canada, you can send your donations to kushalmehra81@gmail.com using Interac Canada. In India, the UPI ID is kushalmehra@icici. Or join the monthly membership, whether on YouTube or on X or on Patreon. If you can't do any of that, just like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment in the comment section. And if you're an audio listener, do rate this podcast and this episode. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, namaste. Take care. Bye-bye.